Welcome back to the 24/7 News Show. It is Saturday. We're going to be up every Saturday of June because I have more free time right now. Anyway, I am excited because Apple just had WWDC it was earlier today, as of the date we're recording this, which is June 3rd. So they announced a variety of new products at this event, or not just new products, but new products are really what's important here. Because they announced some more boring things from iOS dark mode, which is like really, even Windows Phone had that like 5 years ago. But there's a lot of new things that just came out at this event. So the biggest one, I think, by far, especially for me as a creative prosumer, whatever words you want to use to describe that, is the new Mac Pro. Now, they haven't updated this computer since 2013, except for a minor spec bump a couple years ago, only because they were using 2013 Intel processors, which was ridiculous. So now these new systems obviously have the, I believe the 8th gen, it might be the 9th gen Intel chipsets. Don't quote me on that. It's probably 8th gen, because the 9th gen chipsets aren't even out yet. Now the biggest part of this is they finally updated it, because before they didn't have a up-to-date pro-level PC. Now it starts at $6,000, which is a lot for a computer. It is. None of the computers I use to edit are nearly that expensive, but for certain applications, that cost is more than worth it for the performance bump that you're going to need for tasks such as 3D rendering, for heavier video editing. Maybe you're working with Red 8K footage. Those sorts of applications it's going to be very useful to have a computer that is this powerful. Now, people are saying that they've gone back to the cheese grater design because it does kind of look like a cheese grater, whereas the previous one they called the Trash Can Mac Pro because it literally looked like a trash can, a black plastic can-shaped computer. So they've gone back to a big old rectangle like the computer that this video will probably be edited on. And I think it's kind of ugly, but it gets the job done, and with this kind of stuff, that's what's really important, not how pretty it is. So I guess good job, Apple, for finally making something decent for pros, and they are claiming that it's actually a better deal than similar HP workstations. Like their Z-series desktops are very popular in the creative space because they're incredibly powerful, and they're saying that their computer's like about $3,000 cheaper or something like that. I don't know about that. I would definitely do my research, because traditionally, Apple computers are more expensive than their PC counterparts. I would do my research to confirm that. I would not take their word on that. However, their base model is pretty impressive. It uses a 28-core Intel Xeon workstation processor. So that's what you find in servers, all sorts of high-end equipment. It has 1 terabyte of system memory. It has 8 PCIe slots, 10 gig Ethernet ports, AMD GPUs. A whole lot has been packed into this computer. And for me, that's by far the biggest announcement. Now, the other important announcement, I think, not iOS dark mode. Like I said, we did macOS dark mode like a year ago. It's so boring, and they're so late to the party. It's just, no. Microsoft's had it since 2015 in Windows 10 alone. So it's not worth talking about. But the other interesting story out of WWDC is iPadOS. Now, for a while, iPads have been running the same operating system as iPhones. That's iOS, with some features stripped out and some features added in. However, now Apple has decided that they will be forking those two OSs. They're going to be separate. There's going to be iPadOS going into the future, and there's going to be iPhone iOS going into the future. Now, this is because it's largely due to the fact that they have the iPad Pro line now. They're trying to make the iPads more competitive with a Windows-based PC, like this one. And right now, it's far from being a laptop replacement. Some people, you get varying views on that. It depends. If you literally just use a laptop to browse Facebook and type in Google Docs, then an iPad Pro is probably fine for you. But if you require even just the pro-level features of the desktop version of Microsoft Word, you can't get by on an iPad Pro. You just can't. It doesn't have the same features in Microsoft Office alone, and there are so many other important apps that you can't even get on there. So my guess would be that it's hard to try to balance a touchscreen interface between a 13-inch tablet and an iPhone and have it all scale perfectly. That doesn't really work very well. So likely that is the reason. Before, they've added in a ton of new features. Apparently it's going to support fonts. They've added multiple rows. They've reworked Finder on there. They're trying to make it Windows compatible, or Windows competitive rather. I still think they're coming at it from the wrong direction. I think Microsoft Surface Pro, the original, came out in 2012, and it was already a laptop replacement at that point. It had a few hardware quirks that made it irritating, But as far as the software was concerned, it was a laptop. The iPad, as far as software concerned, is still just a tablet. It's not a laptop replacement this time. Anyway, that's pretty much it for WWDC. Although, one other thing, Apple announced a new 6K cinema display. Now, I'm not been getting that because it's like $6,000, something like that. It's really expensive. And it's supposed to be, again, it's a creative, it's a companion device to the new Mac Pro. I mean, it's fine. They're talking about how it has like the greatest specs ever. My problem with whenever Apple starts talking about how great their screens are is all their panels are made by third parties. Like, oh, look how beautiful our iPhone XS screen is. Yeah, great job, Samsung. Because Samsung makes the panels that go into the iPhones. Anyway, let's move on to world news. And in world news, Trump is calling for a boycott of AT&T in order to force changes at CNN, whatever that means. Now, this is clearly Trump showing his fascist, not really fascist side, he just kind of is a fascist. But anyway, he's showing his clear opposition to free speech in the United States as he tweeted out, here is explicitly what he said: I believe that if people stopped using, I just noticed that he spelled stopped incorrectly. I believe that if people stopped using or subscribing to @ATT, they would be forced to make big changes at CNN, which is dying in the ratings anyway. Not true. It is so unfair with such bad fake news. Not true. Why wouldn't they act? When the world watches @CNN, it is getting a false picture of the USA. Sad. And according to CNBC, representatives for AT&T did not immediately respond to requests for comment, and CNN has repeatedly pushed back against Trump's ridiculousness, against his total opposition to free speech, because it's not just them, it's the New York Times. He calls it the failing New York Times. The fake Washington Post, I think, is what he calls it. I can't even keep track of his, childish nicknames for media outlets that do incredible journalism. And there's just so much to unpack here, from, again, the claims of CNN ratings being terrible. They're not. The ratings are not terrible. Why are top-tier advertisers on there? Because if I'm Coca-Cola and I'm paying millions for an ad campaign, I want to have the ad where the eyeballs are. So if CNN doesn't have the eyeballs, I'm not going to run an ad there. So, and that applies to any top-tier advertisers. Car companies like Chevrolet, obviously beverage companies like I just mentioned, Coca-Cola, shipping companies, UPS, any sort of banking or retirement or any sort of financial group like, Pacific Life or something, or Capital One, their credit cards, anything like that. Those are huge companies. We all can recognize the logo at an instant. Those types of companies, they're going to be selective about where they advertise because, number one, putting it in low places actually harms their brand. But number two, they want to have the ad where people will see it. And if CNN were struggling to sell ads, that would be an indicator of terrible ratings. But that's not true. That is not the case. If you watch CNN for 5 minutes, you will see, make sure to watch it on a commercial break, obviously. Otherwise, you're going to see a person talking about the news. But, you will see top-tier advertisers. Anyway, there's more to it than just that, obviously. I mean, to try to rally your base to censor a media outlet, it's insane. And it's terrifying. It is incredibly irresponsible. It is disgusting to see the leader of the free world doing this kind of thing, trying to clamp down on free speech. It's not acceptable in any way. Because just because someone runs information that you don't like, that might portray you in a negative light, doesn't mean it's not true. Okay? It's just an essential part of reality, that things aren't false just because you don't like them. CNN does incredible journalism. They have won numerous awards, much like other outlets, unlike Fox, because, there's a clear distinction here between Fox News and CNN. People like to say, even moderates will be like, oh, CNN is just the liberal Fox. That's not true, because it's not just CNN's on the left, Fox is on the right. They're both terrible. Watch. There's nowhere to get the good news. Number one, if you want unbiased news, I highly recommend the networks. NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. Google him. He's actually a Republican. You would never know it from watching his show. It's incredible. Anyway, but CNN, they have opinion hosts like Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon, but the problem with comparing them to Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity, number one, the racism, but number two, their opinions are backed up by facts, by actual information, by real-world experience, by things that are actually happening. Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson back it up with racism, stereotypes, and internet conspiracy theories. You can't try to say that, Don Lemon, he's just the liberal version of Sean Hannity. No. Because he doesn't peddle internet conspiracy theories that lead to the cost of lives. Or could potentially lead to the cost of lives. But besides that, Trump continues, which is why I'm making this comparison to Fox. At Fox News is much more important in the United States than CNN, but outside of the US, CNN International is still a major source of fake news, and they represent our nation to the world very poorly. The outside world does not see the truth from them. So there's an exclamation point. That's idiotic. But besides that and your authoritarianism, CNN responded by saying, this is incredible, it's not CNN's job to represent the US to the world. That's yours. Our job is to report the news. Hashtag facts first. CNN has just the most legendary responses to Donald Trump's tweets. I love it. It's hilarious. Now, why is he going after AT&T? AT&T owns formerly Time Warner, now Warner Media, which owns Turner Broadcasting, which owns CNN. That's a pretty complicated corporate structure. I'm kind of surprised that Trump's little peanut-sized brain can even fully conceive of it. But somehow he figured that one out. Don't know how. And so now like I said at the top of this, he's calling for people to, cut their satellite services, their wireline, internet TV services with AT&T or DirecTV, until they make big changes, which I assume means turning CNN into a Trump-loving, wonderful cesspool of government, or not even government, but Republican propaganda. That's never going to happen. If it were going to happen, if CNN had it, or if AT&T had an issue with CNN, they knew what they were getting into when they purchased Time Warner. And as we saw from the Disney 21st Century Fox merger, Disney actually spun off Fox Television, including Fox News, FX, and just the Fox network, because, they didn't explicitly say this, but I think it's pretty obvious that no, you don't want to get anywhere near Fox News because they're a mess. They spread hatred and misinformation, and and they're incredibly partisan as well. And so, Disney, as a wholesome, family-friendly company, doesn't want to get anywhere near that. Logically, AT&T, on the other hand, did not have the same problems with CNN. Obviously, they don't spread hatred the way Fox does, and they didn't spin them off. They didn't spin off Turner Broadcasting, which they could have done. That would have been all of Time Warner's, or the majority of Time Warner's television assets. They also own HBO, which is independent. Like I said, the corporate structure, very complicated. But yeah. So it's undeniable here that Trump is showing his fascist side, or not really side, just showing that he is a fascist. Because he clearly doesn't care about the truth. We've seen that since the election, since 2016, he's been criticizing CNN. I won't use the word slamming because he hasn't made any legitimate arguments, ever really. But that's it for the 24/7 News Show. Thanks for watching. Go watch CNN. Also, one more thing. CNN has over 3 million more subscribers than Fox News on YouTube alone. Told you!